AT&T Stadium in Arlington. The doors are open for the first time in the 2023 regular season. It's the Dallas Cowboys home opener where in just 1 week's time, they'll aim to go from toppling giants to air traffic control. New York has a completely different meaning in weeks 1 and 2 this year. 1 down, 1 to go for a concrete jungle double dip as the Cowboys look for their first 2-0 start to a regular season since 2019. This is Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resorts. We've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. We have Nick Eatman also down on the sidelines at AT&T Stadium. We'll hear from him in just a couple moments. But the Cowboys not only looking for that 2-0 start, but they're looking for their first win over the New York Jets since 2007. Ooh, it's been a long time. Yeah. 3-game losing streak against the Jets. Nate, is today that streak comes to an end?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's Kyle, it's so simple. Don't turn over the ball, be efficient, and defense eat. This thing is over quickly.
And that's it for Cowboys Pregame Live, everybody. Appreciate you joining us.
Today is the day. And the reason why today is the day is simply because of the fact that the Dallas Cowboys defense is going to dominate this game. These guys want to go out there and enforce their will. They're going to have to enforce their will against this dominant offensive rushing game from the New York Jets.
It's a simple W for me. The Cowboys defense is too dominant, and Zach Wilson, he's not that guy. So to me, it's a Cowboys W. Let's go on to next week. You guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Get it done. I don't like looking that far ahead because, of course, a little bit of breaks. Okay. This doesn't have an Aaron Rodgers feel to it, of course. There's no Aaron Rodgers for the New York Jets, and there's some things they do well. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about what the Cowboys did well in Week 1. They definitely weren't looking ahead. They were looking for the largest shutout win in franchise history. They got it. 40-0 in Week 1 against the New York Giants in a divisional battle. And, of course, the 3 times previous, they've had a 35-plus point shutout. They've reached the Super Bowl, including back in 1995 when Big Nate Newton was on the Cowboys roster when they beat down the Giants 35-0 in Week 1. Is this just a flash in the pan, or is this more of what we can expect from this Cowboys team?
Oh, it's definitely not a flash in the pan. I mean, they proved 2 things to me. One, that this defense is just as dominant, if not more dominant, than it was last year. And secondly, the young lion, our friend Heckman Harrison likes to call him the big bazooka, whatever you want to call him. This guy is for real and is the best defensive player in the National Football League. You can have T.J. Watt. You can have Aaron Donald. Whoever you want to have, they're not affecting the game like Micah Parsons is. This guy's a real deal. I can't wait to see what he has in store for us this afternoon.
The reason why this thing was not just a flash is simply because of the fact that all 3 phases of the game made contributions. You got special teams. You got Wanye Thomas doing his thing on there. You go to the offense side of the ball. Tony Pollard, even though he only had a sample size, he was still effective. And then defensively, the entire defense. Yes, Micah Parsons went out there and ate, but guess what? There was more guys in the Pride that went out there and got something to eat as well.
And the biggest thing is I just think another year with Jonathan Hankins in there doing what he has to do in the middle, number 95. I like how Dak played efficient. You know, he threw the ball to everybody. We saw a lot of different personnel, so him and Coach McCarthy got off to a good start.
Yeah, that was a great start for the Cowboys. I mean, they went to work so early on, they might as well have sent the New York Giants an invoice because that's exactly how quickly it happened. Dak Prescott talked about it. I mean, 16-0 to start. And from that point forward, this is real. They are legitimate. And even though they don't have Aaron Rodgers, they pose a threat. Why should the Cowboys not overlook the New York Jets this week?
Because the Jets, they got all pros on each level of the defense. You talk about the front line, the defensive line right there. You got Quentin Williams. We all know how disruptive this guy can be. Second level, you got C.J. Mosley, arguably the best linebacker in the National Football League. When you talk about sideline-to-sideline ability, and their secondary, it's just loaded with talent, led by Sauce Gardner out there. So this will be a true test for the Cowboys offense out there. We'll see how they combat these guys.
The reason why I think this is going to be a difficult challenge for the Dallas Cowboys is simply because of the fact the strongest portion of the Jets defense is where the Dallas Cowboys struggle most, and that is moving people off the ball. The offensive line has a lot to prove against this defense that's going to be coming downhill. You got a lot of 300-pound guys that can play with a lot of aggression that can come downhill. If you can't work up to the next level on the running game, you're going to struggle against these guys, so they have a lot to prove.
And to add on to that, you got Quincy Williams, Quentin Williams' little brother, and you got C.J. Mosley, which you've talked about. These 2 guys you don't have to take out when they come to nickel and dime packages. They can cover backside of the backfield. They can handle big and small tight ends, and they're great open field tacklers.
Now, without Aaron Rodgers in the fold, I mean, offensively, what changes for the Jets? Because Aaron Rodgers was 6-3 against Dallas, 14 touchdowns, just 1 interception in his career. He had unlimited success, but how does this now change for the Dallas defense?
Well, defensively, I think they need to stack the box when you're going against a Zach Wilson because he's proven not to be able to win games with his arm. What they can do is run the football very well with those two dangerous backs in the backfield. So the Cowboys defense, they're going to have to know where Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook are at all times because if they get cooking, this can end up being a good game.
I think that you have to play a little bit more single high coverage, I think, in this particular defense, simply because of the fact of the threat of the running game. You have to play another man down in the box, and I think that leaves you a little bit more prone to test out Diggs, to test out Gilmore. These guys are going to be a little bit more on the island. Even though they're capable, they still have to go out there and show it every week.
The biggest difference to me is when you have Aaron Rodgers, he can walk up to the line of scrimmage and see where things are lined up, and he can change your play and put you in the best possible play. This guy got to run the play, and that's a downfall for him because he cannot improvise. He don't have the quick flick and the ability to read the coverage, so it's all downhill for him.
And you guys have all been in the building this week. I mean, you've been around the players, you've talked to some of these coaches, and at least from my vantage point, and I think from those in the media, it looks like this Dallas team is a bit disappointed they don't get a chance in Aaron Rodgers. It felt like they were welcoming that challenge early on. Certainly the challenge still remains in different facets going into week 2, but without Aaron Rodgers in the fold, it's a completely different mindset. Here's Mike McCarthy earlier in the week about, of course, of the relationship between he and Aaron Rodgers and how things can change going into their second matchup.
Yeah, I definitely reached out to him. I think, when I go back to last year, it was great to see him personally and have a chance to spend some time with him, but I was really irritated how well he played. It's just but yeah, it's great to compete against people you care about and people you I mean, him and I have been through a lot together, so I have a tremendous amount of love for him, and this is tough. I mean, this is I know he was very excited about this chapter of his life, and I was looking forward to seeing him this weekend. But yeah, I think any time in this game, and it's a you could
throughout his career that what he does bring to the offense.
Well, I can see the talent. He can play in the pocket. He can make all the throws. Can hit every quadrant of the field. I mean, he looks comfortable in Nathaniel's system. He's played a lot of football for a young guy. So he looks like he's ready to take the next step.
Mike McCarthy, of course, talking to what is this upcoming matchup with the Jets and how it does differ now that Aaron Rodgers is no longer in the fold. And, of course, AT&T Stadium, everybody's starting to fill in and continue to get ready for that matchup as we welcome you back to Cowboys Pregame Live. Let's go on the sideline with Nick Eatman, who joins us now. Nick, looking great out there as usual. The rally towels getting ready to be waved at AT&T Stadium. Tell me, what does the atmosphere feel like in the first game of the season at home?
Well, I think you just said it right there. It's the first game of the season. The atmosphere is electric. And you know how I feel about, those white towels. Anytime you have towels, it's going to be tough to beat. There are some Jet fans. I mean, why not? I mean, the Jets are playing well in the last couple of years. There's a lot of excitement, even though despite the injury to Aaron Rodgers. And so I think this is one of those games where anytime you get an AFC team hadn't played here in, 8 years or so, the excitement is there for them. This is a place, this is a destination place. It always has been. You want to come here and you want to win. But the Cowboy fans, though, after last week's game, everybody is pumped up about this one. We still got, about an hour to go, and still you can tell that it's going to be an electric atmosphere.
Now, even with the electric atmosphere and what the Cowboys did in week 1, they are dealing without a couple of starters. Reports, of course, Tyler Smith not in the fold, Brandon Cooks not expected to go. Who do you think is under more pressure, the offensive line or the wide receivers, to try and fill in the gaps for those two starters no longer playing?
I would say the offensive line, just because they need to play together from a standpoint of who replaces Tyler Smith. I mean, obviously we know it's going to be Edoga, but just as far as just the continuity together, what you're losing with Brandon Cooks, obviously he's your second best, third best receiver. You still have CeeDee Lamb, you still have Gallup. We'll see what happens with Tolbert and Turpin. Going back to training camp, you guys were at training camp. You remember that Turpin and Tolbert were two guys that were considered, to the top 10 of surprises of camp or just standouts of camp because of the way they played on offense, the way they elevated their game. They're going to need to see that today to kind of make up for what they're going to lose with Cooks.
We just talked about some of the challenge that, of course, the Jets defense brings, but what about the offensive side for New York? Which unit for the Cowboys defense, which position group do you feel like gets tested the most early in this matchup?
I think it's the linebackers. I mean, the linebackers are the ones. I mean, if you're going to set the tone and you're going to stop the run, because I think if you can turn the Jets one-dimensional, by stopping the run, that's going to be very favorable for Dallas. But to do that, they're going to have to get in there and stop the run. They're going to have guys like Leighton Vander Esch, Damone Clark. They're going to have to fill those gaps, get up there. Screen passes are going to be big. I mean, we've seen it with Dalvin Cook when he was with the Vikings. We've seen Breece Hall do this as well in his short career here. They're going to test them. That's one way to offset the pass rush too, is to throw it over their head, try to get the screens. The linebackers are going to have to do their job. If they can get the Jets in third and long.
The home opener, but it's a milestone game for you as well, my friend. Number 500 for Nick Eatman, and
yep.
I mean, this is fantastic. We're getting some shots in studio. We'll have to send you these pictures later on. I'm sure you've probably seen a couple of these, but we're going through a photo montage. You've been around for quite some time, back since the turn of the century. I mean, did you ever feel like it would go this quickly?
No, I didn't. I remember when I first got the job, the guys that hired me said, hey, you can do this for a few years and you move on to something else. And I remember thinking, I don't want to do anything else. Like, this is where I want to be. And as it turns out, it's been, I see some photos that are going up there now. But, like I always say, it's been 4 decades. I covered this team for 4 decades just because the end of the 90s, and now we're in the 2020s. But this is just a nice, fancy way of saying you're old. That's all it is. It's just saying that you've been around a long time, you're old. But I tell you one thing. I remember the very first game I covered, and then this one right now. And the energy, the excitement, it hasn't changed at all. And I think that's just the credit to where I think I need to be, and the credit to the Cowboys for keeping me around.
Yeah, it's milestone number 500. All that means is now you've got to push for 1,000. You've got to double it, get to 1,000 games before we get things done. Congratulations.
We'll
enjoy this one. Have fun out there at AT&T Stadium from all of us in studio at the Star, and then, of course, everybody out there at the stadium as well. Nick Eatman joining us here on Cowboys Pregame Live. Game number 500 for Nick Eatman. Always phenomenal talking with him. We'll hear from him later on as well, as he'll get Stephen Jones on the sideline. But before we move on, the Cowboys have been doing some great things in the community as well. Let's turn things over and hear about a field dedication at Thomas Jefferson High School. Long overdue, but certainly something that has smiles on lots of Dallas ISD faces.
That Dallas Cowboys season opener winning magic was felt all over the Metroplex this week.
Touchdown Cowboys! 1, 2, 3, Cowboys!
Tuesday, as the Dallas Cowboys kick off Hispanic Heritage Month, that winning feeling reached Thomas Jefferson High School.
Y'all gonna win y'all game this Friday?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right.
Where members of the Blockchain.com Rookie Club were joined by Charlotte Jones and the cheerleaders to pay a special visit, dedicating a new NFL-grade field and cheering on the NFL flag football program.
It feels great to come out here and really get to connect with some of the kids, because I remember I used to dream of being in the NFL.
I feel like for us to come out here and to be able to embrace these kids and have fun with them on this morning is huge.
Just being here and just seeing the joy on their faces, seeing us come off the bus, they don't know how much that makes us smile on the inside.
Who could have imagined from the utter destruction left by the 2019 tornado that such a hopeful symbol of the future would be celebrated together?
You saw it on the eyes of those who were performing. You saw it on the kids that were running through, screaming for the cheerleaders, screaming for the players. It's just really a unique opportunity for us to celebrate education, to celebrate Hispanic heritage, and to do so in such a unified manner.
The community partners offered a real lesson in resilience and what is possible through unity.
Our community, led by the Dallas Cowboys Foundation, helped us. We use this field now to do neighborhood football. We use the field for soccer.
The shock of the devastation, while unforgettable, gave the community an opportunity.
Cowboys care about them. And if they take that from what this opportunity is, and I think the sky's the limit for them.
When I was younger, I went to a bunch of camps like this, getting a chance to talk to the pros and be with them, just realizing they're normal people just like you. It really inspires you to go out there and chase down your dreams.
Thank you, Dallas Cowboys!
It's no secret the Cowboys have always been very invested in the community, very invested in high school football as well. Thomas Jefferson High School, of course, after the tornadoes back in 2019, damaged, basically destroyed their football complex, and getting that rebuilt and rededicated. Really a cool thing to see this week. Great job by the Purcell family getting that one out there as well. But back here with Nate Newton, and before we get to the inactive list and some of these other storylines, if you're out at AT&T Stadium and you're watching this show, there's some other events going on out at the Miller Lighthouse and the Plaza. Live music, live broadcast all the way through, pregame at the stadium celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month. You've got award-winning bands, award-winning entertainment, great food, great company, all the way through for National Hispanic Heritage Month, and that goes all the way up to kickoff. I know some of you out there at AT&T Stadium are watching Cowboys pregame live. If you're not, then you probably should. You should pull it up on your phone and watch it anyways. But if you're out there, go ahead and check it out for National Hispanic Heritage Month. So, Nate, speaking to everything we just heard from the Tony Pollards and the Jets defense and all these things across the board, I mean, there was dominance in week one. That has the excitement level at a whole new level. What makes this team, specifically for the Cowboys, so well equipped to go up against this Jets and specifically the Jets defense?
It's another year. This is, I think, third year up under Coach Quinn and everybody's. Jonathan Hankins, I keep talking about him. I'm expecting big things from him. I'm expecting for Mozzie, for the light to come on for Mozzie, our first-round pick. Chauncey's got another year. These guys are Osa.
Odigizua.
Yes, sir. This guy here just lit it up there during training camp. That is why. The front seven should be intact. And with your boy playing full-time, number 11, the bazooka they call him, it should be right.
The only defense in the NFL that had more takeaways than the Dallas defense in week one was the New York Jets. They had 4 takeaways against Josh Allen and the Bills last week. What makes the Jets defense so dangerous?
Quinnen Williams. He makes everything go, and we'll talk about him. But this guy in the middle, number 95, is a beast. He had 12 sacks last year. They only had 45, but he had 12 of those sacks. He had multiple pressures, I think double-digit pressures. He is the type of guy to eat up blocks, make things happen. You got Quincy Williams, his brother, running, number 56, running behind him. You got C.J. Mosley, one of the best linebackers, running behind him. And then you got those 2 nice corners in Sauce Gardner, and I think they got DJ Reed. They just got a team full of ball players, man.
They play on both sides,
yes,
and they play in all 3 levels as well. Certainly something that the Cowboys offense will be challenged with, and it'll be even more of a challenge without Tyler Smith. We just talked with Nick Eatman pregame. He said to give you more confidence in week 2.
Yes, I think because Coach McCarthy gave them a lot of different personnel looks that they had to look at. When you're a defensive lineman, you're looking at who's setting in the backfield. You're looking at where the strength of the defense at. Is they going multiple tight ends? Is they going out wide with 4 wide receivers? So you have a lot to look at and a lot to think about. And each team has its own unique way of doing things. So our defensive line has their hands full.
Tyler Smith, of course, playing all 17 games last year. He's missed the first 2 this year. If somebody else goes down, I mean, God willing that doesn't happen, but if somebody else goes down, who do you feel like fills in? Is it T.J. Bass? Is it Awesome Richards? Who do you feel more confident in?
I think Coach Solari likes T.J. Bass, but I like Awesome Richards. I think he transferred from left tackle down to left guard. He practiced mostly at left guard during training camp. Then he went out during the preseason at left tackle and played a little bit as the preseason went on at left guard. I like his versatility.
Well, now, we don't have the inactive list just yet. It hasn't been released to the public, but Brandon Cooks suspected to be out. And if he is out completely, and he was down on the sideline and he was not in pads, so it looks like he is out. But if he's not out, who has to step up in this wide receiver corps?
Jalen Tolbert, Mr. Training Camp, Mr. Preseason. This dude had a super camp. He did everything. Came out of his breaks right, contested passes. Everything we saw him do at South Alabama, he amplified that during training camp and during the preseason. I met his parents, great people, and like I told them, I hope their son get a chance to play this week. Hey, I didn't know Brandon Cooks would be out, but here we go, Jalen Tolbert.
What would be a good day for Jalen Tolbert?
Oh, man, about maybe 4 catches, probably about 75 yards. If you can get him in the zone for his parents, that'd be nice, too.
What is that, like over 15 yards per reception?
Oh, yeah.
I like it. Yeah, a little deep ball maybe working
Yeah.
in favor. 2 receptions, 22 yards in week 1 for Brandon Cooks. Just to give you a comparison, Jalen Tolbert in his entire career, which was all of last year, now, of course, the first game of this year, 2 receivers. And Tolbert looking like a different wide receiver than he was as a rookie. Hopefully that translates onto the field here in week 2. Nate Newton, Kyle Yeomans here for Cowboys Pregame Live. Now let's turn things over to Patrick No-C Walker of DallasCowboys.com. Every week he puts out a column called Science Lab because he's all about the science. Let's talk about really what this team could look like going into this week 2 matchup and hand things over to Patrick.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Patrick No-C Walker, and welcome to the Science Lab. Each week we will dive into the football science behind the Dallas Cowboys and their upcoming opponent to determine the Cowboys' chances of winning that respective game. This begins with week 2 in the New York Jets as the 1-0 Cowboys host an Aaron Rodgers-less New York team that they cannot take for granted because of defense, but they also need to focus on how to beat up on Zach Wilson.
39% of Zach Wilson's dropbacks are on a play action. But here's what makes that more intriguing. Only 21% of his total career yards are accounted for on successful play action plays. I was asked this morning on The Fan, am I worried about Garrett Wilson? Not entirely because of the Cowboys secondary. Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook. If you stop Breece Hall, who was explosive against the Bills, and Dalvin Cook is still Dalvin Cook, to say the least, right? Then you will negate the play action, period, for Saleh and Zach Wilson, and that's taking out 40% of their expected play calls for that young man, which then makes it that much easier to tee off on him as a pass rusher. Next number, 25. Zach Wilson in his career with the Jets, 25% of his throws when under duress are categorized as bad throws. And bad throws are excluding spikes and throwaways. So just pure drop back throws, which includes play action as well. If he's under duress, Zach Wilson throws a bad ball once out of every 4 attempts. The Cowboys will get opportunities to take the ball away. Shut down Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, which eliminates the play action, shrinks the playbook for Zach Wilson quite a bit, and then get him under pressure situations, and he will throw you a bad ball once out of every 4 times. And when he does, question is, are you going to take that ball away?
And as I stated there, ladies and gentlemen, the Cowboys defense will have ample opportunity to tee off on third-year quarterback Zach Wilson for a variety of reasons, but it begins with stopping the running game with Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. If the Cowboys can win up front in the trenches, they can then eliminate the play action, which accounts for 39% of Zach Wilson's play calls over the course of his 2-year NFL career. 40% roughly can be taken away from Zach Wilson's playbook, which means those are ops that take the ball away. So again, stop the run with Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. That deletes the play action pass from Zach Wilson, and then you tee off on him, which gives this Cowboys defense an opportunity to not only take away the ball, but maybe get on the scoreboard like they did against the New York Giants. And with that, we're going to go back to Kyle Yeomans.
Well, I hope you were taking notes at home because there were lots of stats to digest and really look at, and they're all very important. Here are some very important ones, at least in week 1. Zach Wilson was much more efficient within 10 yards of throw area. I mean, you talk about 11 of 13 completions compared to the interception on just 3 of 5 passing, 48 yards. It wasn't always pretty for Zach Wilson in week 1, filling in for the injured Aaron Rodgers, but you can talk to anybody in this New York Jets camp. It feels like a different Zach Wilson this year now that he has had the sign of approval, the stamp of approval from Aaron Rodgers when he was traded for early in the season. As we welcome you back in for Cowboys Pregame Live, we've had Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback. Guys, Zach Wilson can't be that bad to where it's that big of a drop-off, but there is a significant drop-off. He's not Aaron Rodgers. How do things change?
Well, like you said in that stand right there, I think what they're going to have to do with Zach Wilson is they're going to have to get the ball out of his hands quick, immediately, because this pass rush for the Dallas Cowboys is probably the best in the National Football League. When we saw last week against the Buffalo Bills with the Jets, he looked, I don't want to say scared, but he looked kind of nervous out there, kind of looked unprepared. And that was with a pass rush without Von Miller. All right, so what is he going to do when he comes here to the Cowboys and you got Micah Parsons and D-Law coming off the edge? They're going to have to get the ball out of his hands quick. I'm looking for bubble screens, jailbreak screens, and they're going to have to get it to Garrett Wilson early and often. Because if they don't do that and they drop back the pass and have him trying to hit these deep routes down the field, that's going to give Micah Parsons and this D-line all the ammunition they need to get after him. So they're going to have to get the ball out of his hands extremely fast.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the difference between Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson, it's just tenure. tenure and the fact that Aaron Rodgers is one of the most proven players ever to touch the field. So, yes, you have a lot of question marks as it pertains to Zach Wilson. He was given an opportunity. The opportunity got taken away from him. They went another direction, and now he has the perspective and the opportunity to now come back in the fold as a starting quarterback again for the New York Jets. So sometimes situations and perspectives change who you are. They give you a sense of confidence, and I think that the Jets are going to take the approach of ensuring that he has as much confidence as possible because they're going to allow this team to rely on the running game. And if they could take that pressure off of him, that weight off his shoulders to carry this team throwing the ball and really cut down to his throwing between 20 and 25 passes per game, I think that he's going to have plenty of confidence, but it's going to be up to Dallas to take that away from him.
One thing he did have last year, Zach Wilson, was a winning record when he was the starting quarterback. They were 5-4. When he was the starter, they did rotate through a couple other guys like Mike White, who was also a former Cowboy that was in the mix there, and Joe Flacco, too, when Zach Wilson was banged up. One thing that didn't translate, though, was the connection between Zach Wilson and last year's rookie, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson did not catch a single touchdown pass when Zach Wilson was at quarterback, but he did in week 1, so hopefully things turning around, at least if you're the Jets, significantly with Zach Wilson in the fold. But is Garrett Wilson still as big of a threat as he could be?
I think he's special. There's no doubt about it. When you talk about Garrett Wilson, this guy is special. But the matchup between Diggs and Gilmore and Garrett there to let Garrett Wilson develop on these deep routes, I just don't see it. I see them getting the ball to him extremely fast, whether it's slants or like screens I talked about earlier. But when you talk about deep developing routes, he will not have the time back there to get the ball to his playmaker. So this matchup overall, I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys because I don't think he'll have time.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you in the sense that I don't believe that he'll have time. But in regards to is he still a threat, I think he probably is more a threat now that Zach Wilson is at the fold instead of Aaron Rodgers, simply because of the fact that as an offensive coordinator, when you don't have Aaron Rodgers out there kind of facilitating things, you're going to force feed your number one players. So now they're in a position where they're going to rely on their running game, but when they're not running the ball, who are they going to be throwing the ball to? They're going to make sure that Garrett Wilson has the ball in his hand.
Now, how does he match up with Stephon Gilmore and Trayvon Diggs when he goes up against these top corners that Dallas has?
Yeah, I think I'm sure he's up for the challenge.
Yep.
And I know that it doesn't matter which side of the field he goes to, he's going to have that challenge, right? Whether it's Gilmore or whether it's Diggs. If he wants to line up in the slot, he's going to have to deal with the young Deron Bland, who just seems to get an interception every time he touches the field. So I think he's going to have an opportunity to go out there and see exactly who he is versus these players. But I think that they're going to be trying to do this while on the move. They're not going to allow Zach. They don't want Zach Wilson dropping back and throwing the ball. They want to give him the opportunity to utilize his legs as a weapon as well. So everything's going to be formulated off of play action.
Yeah, they're going to have to figure out a way to get him the ball because if you just line him up, like you said, on the line of scrimmage against Gilmore, against Diggs, I don't think it's going to bode well for him because these guys are great at the line of scrimmage when we talk about press technique. So you're going to have to put them in bunches, give them some rub routes, have them in motion, try to free him up from getting that on the line press that Diggs and Gilmore are going to go to him. But it's going to be a heck of a matchup to watch this afternoon.
And it'll be interesting to see just how much New York wants to throw the ball because their game plan is going to predicate off of the ground success and what they are able to do with these two guys behind the line of scrimmage. Breece Hall, 127 rushing yards in week 1. He had 129 yards from scrimmage in his first 4 touches of the game against the Bills on Monday Night Football. Then they turned things over to Dalvin Cook, of course, reliable. And Dallas has seen Dalvin Cook more than once over the last few years whenever he was Hall.
Well, Kyle, I'm going to have to go Breece Hall on this one. And that's no disrespect to Dalvin Cook because he's a heck of a back out there. But when you talk about Breece Hall, this is a guy that coming out of college led the entire national or NCAA in forced missed tackles. Then you go to his rookie season, and before his injury, he was averaging 5.8 yards per carry. And if you played football or no football, that number is insane. And then you fast forward to last week, and he picked up right where he left off. 10 for 127 against a Buffalo Bills defense that ranked top 5 against the run. So this guy is unbelievable. And if he and Cooks can get going out there, Dallas Cowboys may have a slight problem.
I'm going to teach you guys a little bit of Ebonics today, okay? And the word is both of them. BOFF''EM, okay? Both of them. I'm afraid of both of these guys because they are simply dynamic. These are starters on any roster. I don't care where they wanted to go in the league. But all of a sudden, Dalvin Cook follows the Aaron Rodgers train. He follows himself right there to the New York Jets. And now all of a sudden, you have probably one of the most dangerous duos in the NFL. These guys, if you don't get to these guys early on, they both can make you pay. They both can run the ball. They both can make you miss. They both can run you over, and they both can receive the ball out the backfield. You have to wrap these guys up. That's the one thing that you have to be very careful of today against these guys, because if you're so hyped up that you just want to hit, these guys are going to bounce right off you and make big plays just like Breece Hall did last week.
Not one of them Both of them. Both of them.
Yep. Both. Put that F on it. Both.
Learn something new every day. Vocabulary just continues to grow here on Cowboys Pregame Live. All right, you can sign up now to compete for a chance to win some big-time grand prizes. How about this? Madden 24 tournament for a chance to win 2 tickets and a VIP experience to a 2023 Cowboys home game. Qualifiers begin on October 6th and run through the 13th. You can learn more and register for Game Time Madden tournament at dallascowboys.com/game time. So plenty to look forward to there. Of course, we're looking forward to seeing Micah Parsons and this Dallas defense take the field at AT&T Stadium as fans file in. Let's hear from Micah Parsons earlier in the week.
Honestly, if you watch the game, I don't expect anything different. They got them 2 great backs. They got Wilson, who's a great receiver. And I don't think Zach's bad either. I think he's still learning, he's still developing. They says, it's his team, so I gotta go look at the tape from last year.
Do you like it when teams double you because you know that it's going to isolate one of your teammates?
Yeah, you always love the double team, and people talk trash like, yeah, you're not doing nothing, but I always say it's the ultimate term of respect, man. If you feel like you gotta do more for me than anybody else, you just respect me more, and I just take it as that, And they want to get in my head, but I'm like, bro, I'm here. Like you dealing with me, like I'm not dealing with you. Like, you feel me? So it's just the most respect, and you just gotta take it. And guys like Myles Garrett get it, and that's why I respect Myles Garrett's game. He deals with the double teams. They know how dominant he is, versus other guys who may not see that.
By the way, Micah Parsons, of course, with 6 pressures out of 23 total last week against the New York Giants. This Dallas defense did not give Daniel Jones any time to throw the ball, and I'm sure it's probably going to continue into that matchup with the Jets. By the way, did want to update you, we did get the inactive list. Brandon Cooks, Donovan Wilson, Trey Lance, Noah Igbenogany, that means Jordan Lewis is back in the fold at the cornerback position. Eric Scott, the rookie corner, Tyler Smith, Viliami Fehoko. Those are your inactives for the Dallas Cowboys as they prepare for Week 2 as we welcome Nate Newton back to the set. Now, Nate, Micah Parsons leads the NFL with 10 takeaways, and all caused by pressure since the start of the 2021 season. What makes him so special? Because it's a number of things. It's the versatility, sure, but what makes him the best at what he does and what we've seen so far this season?
God, he's competitive. I mean, in everything we hear about, in everything he does, he's very competitive. Each year he adds a little to his arms. His first year, he just ran off the ball. He just hit a gap, and he didn't have no hands. Last year, he had hands. This year, I saw him work the counter. He'll take you upfield, 2-step, bam, bam, and he'll cross you over. I mean, Aaron Allison didn't have this kid cross over with the explosion that he has to the quarterback. I mean, just the way he's grown each offseason to be a better pass rusher.
Without a doubt. I mean, like I stated earlier, I think he's the best defensive player in the National Football League right now. When you talk about a guy who can impact the game the way he does. I mean, I know Bosa, Donald, those guys are great, but no one does it like Micah Parsons out there. Not only for himself, but he opens up things for his teammates as well, either by design, where they're double team and triple team him, and then you got DeMarcus Lawrence one-on-one, or it's just by his effort. Because when you go out there, you see him. He'll start on the edge, and then he'll just crash into the Garden Center, taking out 3 offensive linemen while he's doing that, freeing up the rest of his guys out there. So to me, the sky's the limit, and he's probably, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the league right now.
Yeah, he certainly looked like it in Week 1. Now, as you talked about, the teammates around him feed off of that energy. They feed off of that success. Barry, you've been on some really good defenses in your day. What is it like when you do have a guy that you can kind of charge behind and feed off of whenever you're a teammate out there and trying to open things up?
Well, as a safety, it made my job a heck of a lot easier when you had that D-line being able to eat like that out there. But to me, when you got a guy like Micah Parsons who just sets the example for everybody else. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence even said it a couple years back. Hey, I got to get my game right to where I'm with him. So he's bringing everybody along with him. This guy is outstanding.
When I'm looking at it from practice, I just remember a bit of Charles Haley, how they correct practice. But if you take it in the proper perspective, as you know what, if I can block this guy, if I can slow this guy down in practice, when the game starts, you 9 times out of 10, you're going to beat your guy. And I had a lot of success dealing between Leon Lett and those type guys, man, just had long arms, athletic. And when the game came, it was just much easier as offensive lineman.
Were you able to feed off of guys up front like that the same way that a defense can? I mean, you've seen it with defense.
As long as you're sacking another team, yeah, I'm good with that.
But what about with the guys next to you? You played with Larry Allen. You played with all those guys. I mean, how does that feed off of each other?
When the film came on Monday or Tuesday, when you watch these guys dominate guys like, Eric Williams versus Reggie White, and you see them stalemate each other, wash each other out like that, and you want to be that guy. You want to, you know what, because you knew this guy was going to be an all-pro. You knew he was going to be a Pro Bowler. So you fed off of that, and you can just hit them guys with a grunt and going on, so you want to be a part of that. Yes, sir.
See, there's a reason I asked this question. I wanted Nate to get that energy up because we've got to bring the energy up because here in a couple seconds, we're going to break down how that cohesion can help the Cowboys out today. But first, let's toss things over to Zach Martin as he's looking forward to this matchup with the front seven from the New York Jets.
Yeah, it's a huge matchup for us. I mean, the guy's a hell of a player. Really, that entire front, and they've done a great job of also beefing up their second unit. They've got 8 guys who can play, 8-9 guys who they can rotate in there, keep the guys fresh. So it's going to be a huge test for us.
The Jets are obviously an uncommon opponent, but are there some commonalities in terms of solid being from San Francisco?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the tape, there's a ton of San Francisco that pops out to you, not only with the scheme but how their guys play and how especially their front is coached to play. They get in those jet stances and try to get up the field and penetrate and ruin your combination blocks and then get to the quarterback. So there's a lot of similarities there between them and San Fran.
Zach Martin knows the challenge at hand with this man right here, Quinnen Williams. He was graded as the number 2 defensive tackle according to Pro Football Focus in week number 1. Zach Martin was graded as the top interior offensive lineman in week 1. So what a matchup this is. Even Zach Martin saying that in order for Robert Saleh's defense to have some success, they need a big nose tackle. Nate Newton has faced some great nose tackles in his years. I want you to tell me, going through Newton's laws, how to slow down a big defensive tackle like this, because Quinnen Williams is a challenge even for a guy like Zach Martin.
Okay, what I need for you guys to do, I'm not going to waste any time. There's 2 types of leverages. It's positional leverage and it's physical leverage. But I want to show y'all who this guy is and what the ground he covered. Right, Isaiah, this is Quinnen Williams. I need for you now, turn your back to the camera here. Look here, I'm the center.
CJ Moe?
You are guard. You a guard.
Okay.
This guy will range from the outside eye, move over, right here, to head up over the center, to outside eye of this guy. This is how dominating this guy is. He's our equivalent to Micah Parsons.
Okay.
Now, let's turn this way. Boom, nope. You are C.J. Mosley, or you can be his brother Quincy Williams. I'm going to talk about pass. And the pass, when we talk about pass, it's more about positional leverage. And I'm going to work from the center because that's kind of like, I think, our weak link, and that's where he's not a weak link. He's an NFL player. I don't want to dog him out. Biotis is a good player, better than average, much better than average. But what this guy can do is he can either come head up, boom, boom, or he can come from a tight eye. Either eye he can come from. But the leverage I'm talking about here, when I'm talking about passing, is this guy has to snap the ball and put his hands on this guy. But what cannot happen is he cannot put his hands outside. He always has to put his hands inside. And most centers, the way Quinnen Williams is going to hug this ball, and this is positional leverage. I'm trying to say between him and Dak. Don't look like Dak, but that's that. Anyway, when I snap this ball, don't take a step. When I snap this ball, boom, I'm trying to hit him in his face. I'm talking about bent knee. I'm trying to hit him in his face, hoping that I'll reach his chest. If I can get inside, I'm good. But the problem is when he get over here, now I got to snap, step back. Or if he get over here, this is the most difficult one for a center, is I got to snap, step back, boom, boom, and get that hand there. And you see the moves he's making? Great job, Quinnen. Great job. But the bottom line, if I can just make him get into his middle, that's as an offensive lineman. I'm always, unless I'm a tackle, I'm trying to eventually work into your middle so I can get my hands inside. It's a battle. Now, you know the hand movement, place, knocking it down, fighting. But I can't give enough ground where you running me back on top of the quarterback and he has nowhere to go. You see what I'm saying? That shortens the corner. So these, especially if he's in the A or B gap, or if you're a defensive end, it shortens the corner. He cannot step up. And it shortens the corner, and boom. Jeremiah Johnson is living in the backfield. Carlos Johnson is living in the backfield. Now, we talked about positional leverage. We talked about the center. Now we're going to put him over the guard. We're talking about physical leverage. I'm the right guard. I'm Zach Martin, who got great hand placement. Chuma Adoga, or the left guard, last week played a lot out here. That ain't gonna work. What he has to do, when I'm stepping off, I'm run blocking him. I'm trying to reach him. I'm taking a step back. I'm trying to get my head here, but I'm trying to get my hands inside. I'm trying to be physical. I'm trying to push him. Last week, Chuma Adoga was outside. That worked last week against Dexter Lawrence a little bit. It worked against the other kid, but this won't work against this guy. He is straight leverage. He knows how to play. He's very, very physical. Now, if he line up over Zach Martin, it's going to be a wash. He lines up over my boy, Biotish, it's going to be a dog. Used to playing left guard, all I'm telling him is with his long hands, get inside, sit, boom. Whether it's a pass, boom, hands inside. Whether it's a run, boom, hands inside. The constant here is knee bend and finish. When the whistle blow, I got to have my hands inside. No matter if you push me back, when the whistle blow, I got to finish you. I got to feel in my heart as a bulldog that I finish you, even though you may be on top of my quarterback.
You can't let him get in the backfield like that. Come on, Big Nate. You didn't let that happen all the time.
No.
Now I'm the quarterback. You let him in the backfield?
Okay, Troy. I got to feel like Jerome Brown.
More Troy than that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's just move on from that. Nate, fantastic job as always on Newton's Laws, and it's always a pleasure to get to learn, and hopefully the guys have learned from this offensive line coach, from this offensive staff along the way, and maybe they learned from last week too, going back and looking over the film. Chuma Adoga specifically, like you talked about, did a nice job coming in and filling in for Tyler Smith. He's going to have to do something very similar this week against a really stout offensive front, especially with Quinnen Williams trying to block their way for guys like Tony Pollard. And Tony Pollard, of course, with 70 yards. He had 2 touchdowns in that first game. Let's hear from him about the matchup with the Jets on top.
I mean, they have a great defense, especially their D-line. You know, guys like Quinnen Williams up front. You know, they got a great linebacker core, C.J. Mosley. They got nice corners out there, so it'll be a nice challenge for us, but, you know, we're looking forward to it.
Good to see Turpin. Is that red zone back on that power off the left there?
Yeah, I mean, I was happy for my boy Turp. You know, I was glad he got a touchdown. You know, been needing one of those, so I'm glad he could get one on offense.
Is there a specific moment you're looking forward to on Sunday?
I'm looking forward to winning.
You're happy for Turpin as long as he doesn't take too many of those away from you?
Yeah, we gotta keep him limited.
Tony Pollard leading the NFL with 12 scrimmage touchdowns since week 8 of 2022. He had 2 in week 1. What did you like from what you've seen so far from Tony Pollard returning from injury, Isaiah?
I mean, it's just more of the same that you expect from Tony Pollard. Nothing too crazy, nothing beneath what you expect. I mean, he's going out there, he's executing. He can run the ball, he's efficient. You know, he's going to make the splash plays, but he's going to make the consistent ones that matter most as well.
Yeah, I think even though it's a small sample size, I think the coaches are doing a great job in handling Tony Pollard. They're not putting too much on his plate, forcing him to be that bell cow back. I think they're getting a great job of the touches he has. 15 to 20 touches to me, including receiving yards. I think that's the perfect sample size for Tony Pollard to go out there and get the most bang for your buck.
We talked at the open of the show. This offense didn't have to show a ton in the 40-0 win against the Giants because that was, of course, just one where they took over initially. With what you did see from Tony Pollard, though, did you see the same level of explosion you come to expect from number 20 in the backfield?
Without a doubt. I mean, that's the only thing that kind of worried me going into the season. With that leg injury, would he still be that explosive back, that home run hitter? And to me, he checked all the boxes right there. He was downhill with it. He ran with physicality out there, and he was actually falling forward, something that we didn't see from Tony Pollard last year. So to me, there's no worries. I think that injury is behind him.
I think the same. Touche.
There it is.
Touche. All right, let's take a look at some of the backup running backs and what scored his first NFL touchdown last week against the Giants. So after seeing all 3 of these guys, each of which, of course, making headlines through the preseason, through training camp, it's time to debate. It's time to bring it to the guitar pick. When you're over at the guitar pick, you know you've got a debate. Barry, Isaiah, I'll let Barry start this week. Which one of these 3 guys should get the majority of the carries?
Well, his position might say wide receiver. But to me, I call him running back too. And that's Turpin out there. To me, the formula is simple. Would you rather have 2 running backs that at any given moment they have the ball in their hand, they can take it to the house, or just one? Because to me, there's no lightning and thunder combo that's going on this year. I mean, all right, Ezekiel Elliott, he's got out the building, and no other running back in that room has that style to where it's grind and pound the defense down to cement. There's none of that going on. So to me, you'd rather have two explosive backs to where when Tony Pollard's out, that defense can't rest because they got to understand Turpin, he could take it to the house at any given moment.
You know, I don't disagree, Barry, from one standpoint. I think it's going to be gritty by committee. And that's from the standpoint of this is going to be a holistic group, okay? Tony Pollard, they did a good job of managing his flow this past game, okay, against the Giants. Man, I think there's going to be more of that because they're going to need him down the road. I don't disagree that I like Turpin, okay? But I think the man that's going to step into the fold today against this defense that comes downhill and bull rushes forward is going to be Mr. Deuce Vaughn himself. Deuce Vaughn's going to get in the game today. He's going to do work. He's going to show you guys exactly why him and Mr. Robinson from Bijan Robinson were the two guys that were really leading the NCAA last year. He's going to show up again like he did in the preseason, but this time it's going to be in the regular season.
All right, guys, say it with me now. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Deuce. Now, here's the thing. I actually agree with Barry. I think Rico Dowdle is that guy. He's a little bit of a change-up, and then you sprinkle in a little bit of Turpin. You sprinkle in a little bit of Vaughn. I'm going to give BC the points on this one.
Club 42, though. I like the number he has. Yeah, that's Club 42.
That's the thing. That's what it took for him to go against Deuce Vaughn.
I like Rico. Rico is the man. He's the clear number 2, but against the Jets and about what they do well, I think your man is going to be Deuce.
We'll see what happens.
Well, this isn't the only debate. Of course, we're going back-to-back here. Tell me about these defenses. Top 5 scoring defense in the NFL for not only the Cowboys, but also for the Jets. They forced 4 turnovers last week. Cowboys forced 3. Of course, these are the ranks over the last 2 seasons. And Dallas, very, very good. We already know what they've done in terms of takeaways, led the league in back-to-back years. They're trying to do so for a 3rd straight year for the first time since the Steel Curtain defense in the 70s. But with all that being said, which defense would you rather have? Isaiah, I'll let you start.
Of course, the Dallas Cowboys. And simply because of the fact that you actually fear the Cowboys. Not only do you respect them, but you fear them. I think with the New York Jets, you just respect them. And that's not no shade at all because they have some dudes that can actually go out there and make plays. But they don't have one guy, not even Mr. Williams on the defensive front that you absolutely fear. You definitely respect them, but Dallas has Micah Parsons. Dallas has Fowler. Dallas has Armstrong. Dallas has D-Law. They have everybody else on the defensive front. So, because of that, you fear them.
Look, I know this is supposed to be a debate, but I got to agree 100% with my guy Isaiah here. I mean, when you talk about these two defenses and you throw stats out of there, you just go by level, all right? The secondary, the corners kind of wash each other out. You got, Sauce Gardner, Reed, Gilmore, Diggs out there. They're all playing at the top of the level, so they all wash out. The difference is that 3-headed monster at safety. When you talk about that 3-headed monster and what Dan Quinn's able to do with that, I think that puts the secondary ahead. The Jets, second-level linebacker, I got to give it to him. C.J. Mosley, all-pro. He's been doing it consistently for years and years, so I got to give it to them. But the difference, like you said, is that front for the Dallas Cowboys. When you have waves upon waves of pass rushers that can get after the quarterback, we all understand that's what makes
Williams. He's a dog up front. Sauce Gardner on the outside, dog on the perimeter. I mean, those two guys are very, very good at what they do, but they make the guys around them better. The guys around the Dallas Cowboys, equivalent of the dogs, are just better. Yep. They are better. They're more talented. They're more deep. And we're going to see that, I think, today. I think you're going to see this Jets offense challenged in a way that they were not tested in Week 1 against the Bills. Should be a fun matchup, though, either way. Two very good defenses, and we'll see how that continues to unfold as, of course, Dak Prescott will be challenged by that Jets defensive front. Speaking about Dak, let's hear some of his thoughts earlier in the week about the matchup in hand and just how dangerous this Jets defense can be here in 2023.
Yeah, very well-coached defense, very, very sound. Vision defense, eyes on me. They can get after, got a great pass rush. You watched that game Monday, they held a hell of an offense to a few points. So we know the challenge that we have on our hands, and they're a good defense, and expect to see all of that come Sunday.
Pro Football Focus said you got the ball off quicker than any quarterback in the NFL in Week 1. Let's talk about the importance of getting the ball off quick, and what does that do for your offense?
Texas Coast. It's good. I mean, it equalizes a pass rush like that. Those guys, and honestly, these guys coming in, just being able to get the ball at my hands quick, it says a lot about the receivers, them flying off the ball, them getting to their spacing, them getting on the timing, getting to where they need to be, and me feeling comfortable in my reads and everything that the communication that we've put in throughout the week on what I'm going to see, what I'm getting at. The purpose in coach calling plays, there's a lot that goes into that. But it's credit as much as anybody. I think probably those guys outside
deserve some for understanding the purpose in the plays, and it's not always about beating the defenders as much as it is about beating the pass rush and getting to their spots, and I'm only continue to hope to do that.
Speaking about the talent on that Jets defense, what's the toughest challenge for Dak Prescott, Isaiah, when you're looking at it from a quarterback standpoint? How is he going to be tested today?
Decision-making. Simple decision-making. That's the biggest thing for Dak. Obviously, you can get into the location and accuracy, but I think for him, as long as he doesn't get outside of himself, I think his biggest struggle is his internal struggle to not want to just force the big play. If he can just stay within this new Mike McCarthy offense, which is going to be a lot slower, a lot more chill than the past Kellen Moore offenses, I think he'll be perfectly fine.
And if that 1-2 read ain't there, don't force nothing. You don't have to. You got good enough legs where you can move around, get your first down if it's short enough.
Yeah, the biggest thing for Dak is going to be just not getting frustrated. Like you guys said, not wanting to push the ball down there, because this Jets defense is good and they're very frustrating. And when those shallow crosses or that running game's not working to where he wants to, he has to calm himself down and not want to force the football down the field. We all know that could lead to turnover. So just stay within yourself and stay within this offense. You should be just fine.
There you see Dak and Jaron Kearse hyping up the teams. Staying with Dak here, nobody in the NFL got the ball out quicker in week 1 than Dak Prescott did. That's a part of the offense. That's part of the West Coast and the Texas Coast scheme. But how is that going to help him as the season goes along?
Because, one, it narrows things down. You don't have to look at the defense out there and say, all right, this guy's got to be here, this guy's got to be here. You can get the ball fast to your playmakers out there, and the Cowboys have an abundance of playmakers. When you talk about the CeeDee Lambs, the Gallups, the Cooks of the world, Pollard out there as well. So you get the ball out of their hands quick and let them do what they do, get those yards up. I think this offense is tailor-made for Dak Prescott.
Totally agree with you. I think, you talk about the standpoint of getting the ball out of his hands quickly, but the biggest part of the West Coast offense is getting the ball out of your hands with the right decision. Okay, you're able to step to the line of scrimmage and eliminate one side of the field based upon what the coverage is presenting you.
To be opening up those options for that.
You see the Cowboys heading back into the locker room as they'll come back out. Next time they will come back out, it'll be for game time and the national anthem as things starting to get closer and closer. Just about 30 minutes till kickoff between the Cowboys and the Jets. We have Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, a trio of former Cowboys. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Now, we've talked about Dak. We've talked about this defense. We've even mentioned Sauce Gardner, the cornerback, the star corner, who, of course, was Defensive Rookie of the Year last year in the AFC. But will we see him face CeeDee Lamb? Two of the best at their position group right now. However, not so fast. Lamb played 29 of his 43 snaps last week in the slot. Sauce Gardner, throughout his entirety of his career, which, of course, is just 1 year and change, just 5 snaps in the slot out of over 1,100 snaps in his career. What pressure is on Lamb to produce without Brandon Cooksbury, even if he's going up against Sauce Gardner or not?
I think the pressure comes to Lamb when you talk about making sure he's basically getting all the attention from the defense. He doesn't have to go out there and give you 10 catches for 150 yards, but if he's making sure that defense is putting the eyes on him, it's going to be up to Gallup. It's going to be up to Tolbert and those other guys to win their one-on-one battles. If he's able to open up the offense for the rest of those guys, he has done his job.
I think his game is going to come off a straight yak yardage, and that's yards after catch. This is a too high defense. These guys want to play zone. Sauce Gardner is not going to be switching sides. Sauce Gardner is not going to be sitting up here pressing. He's not going to be going into the slot. So it's really going to be predicated on whoever comes into his area, catch the short passes, do something with it, make these guys break some tackles, and make some plays.
Unfortunately for CeeDee, he was this guy last year where all the attention was on him. It's nothing new to him. We talked to him during the offseason. He's matured much more.
When you look at CeeDee Lamb, of course, this is his first ever matchup with the New York Jets. Dak Prescott has only 2 teams in the entire NFL he's never thrown a touchdown pass against: the Los Angeles Chargers and, of course, the New York Jets. So he has a chance to have his first touchdown pass, but again, he's never had CeeDee Lamb to throw the football to. So excited to see what that matchup looks like. Hopefully we do get to see a little bit of CeeDee Lamb and Sauce Gardner. I think that would be electric if we can end up seeing a matchup quite like that. But it is the home opener for the Cowboys, trying to go 2-0 for the first time since 2019. We talked about the opening day jitters last week. Is there any sort of home opener jitters whenever you're a player getting ready to play this game?
Oh, yeah. When I played at home for the very first time, whatever season it was going to be, the energy is electric. I mean, you feel it. You got all the butterflies in your stomach. When you're in the Cowboy Stadium, you see those white towels waving around, so you get super pumped up. But you got to realize you just got to calm yourself down and understand you got a job out there to do, and you got to represent well for your teammates. So these guys are going to be hopped up, but they just got to remember, do your job and execute the game plan.
Yeah, Barry's absolutely right. When that juice gets up in you, you want to get loose, but you can't. You got to calm the seas. And because you know you got your family out there in the crowd, and when your family's around, you want to make sure you show up and show out all the way. But just temper it down and let it all out on the field.
Not me. I was getting introduced. The offense was getting introduced. I went to Coach Johnson, introduce us. I used to be hyped all the way to the first hit. I want to knock a head off, baby. I'm searching for a head. Yeah.
Who was more hype back then? Was it the Nate Newton of the world, or was it the Colorado head coach Deion primetime
Don't
Sanders?
Make it personal. That's all.
Don't make it personal, baby. I like it. I like it. Cowboys, of course, trying to win the home opener last year. That was the only home game the Cowboys lost. They've won 8 straight.